Welcome. Come on in. Giving it a few uno momentos for people to come on in as we're playing Feeding the Ducks, you know? So, are you ready for this brand new day? So, welcome everybody. Come on in. Thank you for those who are watching the replay. And thank you for those who will be joining me. My name is Mary Jane Tracy, psychic medium, spiritual love of life coach, an astrologer, spiritualist. I don't know, just a little bit of everything and all put together in some kind of crazy format of this world. So, yeah, it's a wee bit stormy out there, astrologically speaking. And with Mars going into Capricorn, a lot of craziness happened around the world with it going in there. And we have Mars and Pluto in Capricorn, and they're the rulers of Scorpio. And it's heavy. It's heavy. Like there's just things are starting to end, and we are kind of in this in between. This is a releasing of so many layers for the past 16 years with Pluto and Capricorn, and it's really rising up. I mean, that Pluto and Capricorn is like, I'm sorry. I know we've had it for 16 years, but at 29 degrees and 29, I mean, that's pretty heavy. And it's squaring the moon today. So we have a heaviness with that moon, and it's internal, and the moon is in Libra. And a lot of things with what is happening in Libra. So you're going to find that Libra likes to balance things. Like there's a balancing. I want to balance this. I want things to, to be a certain way. But as soon as that moon goes into Scorpio, bang, we're going to be feeling a lot more deep underlying happenings and old phases and coming out of that in between. And we still have 16 days until Pluto goes into Aquarius. But the thing is, with Pluto going into Aquarius, people don't realize that Pluto for the next 20 years is going to be squaring Scorpio and the energies of Scorpio. So when that moon goes through Scorpio, it's going to be squaring up that Pluto. And it does. It brings in things. Scorpio is not exactly the easiest sign in the world. And it doesn't help that Pluto, who is the ruler, squaring it. And right now we have Mars coming in, and Mars is in Capricorn. So this is coming down to who we are. This is coming down to our spiritual selves, how we are stepping up to the plate within our spiritual being. And it is a spiritual journey. This is where we really have to look at our purpose, something that is greater than ourselves. And I guess, people call it the new normal, but this is past the new normal of what you thought the new normal was. This is something way beyond of what that new normal is, right? And this is where we have to look at the purpose greater than ourselves and the best you can be. And this is where that Pluto squaring over to the moon in Scorpio, Mars being in there, Mercury's finally starting to move, and you got to remember it's going to be in shadow still for the next 3 weeks. It's a lot of this releasing, and we're seeing it in the world. I mean, we had a shooting, which is really weird, in Ohio. And I looked into a little bit of that because that's what, me being Scorpio does. And looking into that, and that was just weird because a young 16-year-old boy, it's not even up on the news, it's sort of got washed away with all the war news and things that are going in along the war. Russia's pushing its full front right into, they're not holding anything back anymore. So Russia's putting full front into Ukraine, and then we're starting to see things spread in the Middle East. So this Mars coming in, Mars is war, right? And bringing in that war energy. Then you have all of the other things that are being dropped, which are the extreme things. It's those Epstein things. all being dropped in. Everybody thought it would be a list, but it's not. It's documents. And then plus the other thing people got to realize, it's not just the documents. It's that one thing that they're not going to release to you are the VHS tapes that were confiscated years ago. That has the actual evidence. The other thing too is about the Epstein, which is a whole kettle of fish. I mean, we got to realize that there were other places. There was the Miami place, there was the New York place, and the Virgin Islands. Not everybody got on the plane, not everybody was flown in. They had other means and other ways of getting onto that island. And it's just some of the bizarreness that has come out about that as well. This is where, when all of this is bombarding and all of this, and of course we have all the craziness that is coming in within our own lives, right? And what's happening within our own life, and dealing with this is where we are being called up. This is where, the hand of God, will you say, it's like, the aces. So any of the aces in the tarot, there's always a hand coming through, right? Or even with the four cups, here comes the hand with the cup, and we don't. It's like, it's like we have to rise up to that hand. We have to rise up to that what is coming to us, and this is coming into a greater commitment that is to God, and then family and job and what have you. But the essence of this is rising up to something and of a higher being. And this is where we have to face and accept and the change. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge for us to be doing it. I know it within my own life, and the crazy shit that's hitting the fan here. It's just like it's just nonstop. And it's just like I gotta laugh because it's like I gotta like let it go, and not try and control it and freak out about it, and give it up to God, give it up to the Holy Spirit, and say, you know what, I can't control this. It is what it is, and I got to wait for certain things and certain motions to come in for me to be able to move forward in certain areas, and for me to let go of certain areas in my life. So this is where we have to look at our commitment and come in as those spiritual people, right? And it is the deepest. I mean, for the next week, 2 weeks, this whole year, it's not it's not easy, and a lot of people are going to be going into the hysteria of it, and they're going to be going, where, as I say, people running into the streets, freaking out, people are, and we're going to be starting to see that even this week, I believe, and going into, the weekend, and then of course going into next week. There's going to be so much that people are going to be feeling, and more of it's going to come out and come out, come out, come out. And this is the intensity of it, right? And bringing forth that intensity. And I feel for where people have to start really looking into a spiritual practice. And I've been saying that for years. And when I remember years ago, when I think it was in grade 6 or 7, and we had to do a list of what is the most important things in our life. And my number one thing, even back then, I put down God. Like, God's number one. And I got laughed at. Because the kids in my school, it was a public school, and they were just like, "Oh, why would you put God? That's so stupid. I put my dog. I put my mom, my dad. They're the most important things in my life." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're important." But and I think, of course, being laughed at and stuff doesn't help when you're um that age. But it is like looking at, yeah, that is the most important thing in my life, is God, is the divine. And putting that forward in what you are doing, whoever you call God, divine source, whatever you can choose. You can call it Mickey Mouse if you want. Whatever you choose to put forward of a higher source than yourself, and just allow for that guidance to come through in amongst the chaos and the distraught and the nuttiness that is unfolding in the world. And a lot of people say, well, I don't watch the news, I don't watch this. It doesn't matter if you watch it or not. It's there. The energy's there. And you can't spiritually bypass this. You have to take it and you have to feel it and then you have to release it. And that's going to be the hardest thing for people to do, is having to feel it and then release it, not taking it in as your own. It's understandable. Yes, it's a lot, but this is part of the journey. And this is part of the journey of being a light worker. And many will spiritually bypass it and say, no, we're just, I'm not taking that in right now. I'm not going to deal with that. I don't watch that. That's, just send it. I'm not going to feel it. And then they move on. This is where it hits you later on in some format, where you have to look at some of this pain and misery, because the one thing that once you know it and you can't unknow it. Doesn't matter what it is. Once you know it, and I think that's what people, really are trying to do. They don't want to know anything. So they really want to try to isolate themselves. But in that isolation, when we're going into Aquarius, that's where psychological issues come in, because Aquariuses don't like to be by themselves. It's about community, it's about humanity, it's about connection and having those connections, which are very important. And that's where Pluto is going to uproot where you are trying to disconnect, uproot where you don't want to be a part of, and really push your ass through the door and say, sorry, here it is, they're knocking at your door. And many people don't want, because of the last 4 years. Right now it's New York lockdown. I was just talking to somebody recently, and I said, you got to look at your laws. I mean, of what's just happening in New York. And she goes, what do you mean what's happening in New York? I said, right now they just passed a law that they can lock you down at any time for whatever reason. She goes, no, it isn't. I said, look into it. And she goes, really? I said, look into it. I said, that's what I got. Maybe it's not. She looked into it, and it's the truth. Hospitals are starting to bring back the mask. It's like, again, it's like trying to put this divide into people, right? And that's their last kind of straw. And especially with Pluto and Capricorn, at these very last degrees, wanting to hang on so we can separate you. And this is where it's like this energy saying, you know what, fuck that, baby. Mars is not something to joke around with. I know. He's my ruler. I'm a Scorpio. I have a stellium in my 5th house, which is Scorpio. And my stellium has, well, if you just count the planets, there's like 5 planets in there in my Scorpio house. And Aquarius squares all my house. Aquarius squares me, and so does Leo. And opposite me is Taurus. So I have this boom of energy that bombards me. But I have to look at it, and I have to allow myself to feel it, and I have to allow myself to work through it. A lot of you have seen some of my posts about my fear, my anxiety, and all of that coming in. Yeah, it's because I am like, a lot is just coming in on me, and a lot with that is causing a lot of layers coming up. Things that I thought I dealt with, I guess I didn't deal with that. I guess I wasn't that good with the finances. I guess I wasn't good with all of that. Oh, and things being taken away. And it's that where you have to sort of stop and say, okay, God, universe, I know you're watching. I know you're here. You're watching everything that's going on. This next 20 years is a year of the divine really watching what the hell's going on, and other things. And really saying, you know what? I can only do what I can do. Help me, guide me, and lead me to where I need to go. And have faith in that. And that's going to be a big challenge for people. That means the control isn't yours. The control's God. And in saying that and doing that, that's really a hard piece for people to feel or actualize. I was looking at one of it was funny, one an astrologer, what's her name? Divine Harmony. She's so sweet. She's so kind. She's a Pisces. I just love her. She's just so cute, so wonderful. But when she gets anything that's very harsh and it comes into the some some of the energies, she kind of really pulls back. She doesn't really want to say it like it is, right? She doesn't want to say the things, yeah, this is dog, this, sun squares Chiron. Yeah, it's going to trigger people, right? And it's going to be emotional and it's going to be, of bringing up wounds and pain with people. And that's going to be early Saturday morning. For her, she likes, yes, the sun square Chiron's a very difficult one. And you really have to look at, the types of emotions that are coming out. She really puts it very nicely. um, and I'm just like, it's emotional. It's rational. There's wounds that are coming up, and the wounds of the world are coming up. This is Chiron. This is the sun in Capricorn. It's saying what is your structure, and what are those attachments that you have with that structure, right? And this is where we have to pay attention to a lot of things that have manifested over the last little while in our life, and how they've manifested. And sometimes we can be unaware of how things get manifested in our life. It's like, well, I wasn't really thinking about that, but it could have been it's like, I don't, things are fated. I don't believe in free will, because being an astrologer and seeing how things are, so a lot is, yes, we have choices and things like that, but the thing about the whole free will part, yeah, I just, there's when I see when certain things hit a person's chart, there's fated things that happen and that need to be played out. It's how you partake in them and how you engage in them, is, you could say, is the free will, right? But this is where we're finding that we have to look at what's triggering us, and the dogma that is, coming in. We're going to have so much dogma, not only, from religions coming forward, but society is what is the narrative that they're trying to stress on people at this time. What is that narrative? And that's part of the dogma, and really watching if that, if the dogma is, triggering you in some way. And then you have to figure out, well, why is that triggering me, right? And the anger and the rage that's coming forth, especially with that, we're going back to that sun square Chiron, but also with with Pluto squaring the moon. That's a huge one, right? And we have the Mercury Eris coming in, which is, full power, voice. And this is a goddess of discord. So if you want, there's going to be some belligerent things coming out and being said, because Mercury is going to, trigger over to Eris. So there's going to be some things that are going to come out that, when it comes to activism, or taking action and having agencies. This is where things can get, we also have that square with Mercury and Neptune. Some things can get illusional and all over the place and manipulative. And the media wants to manipulate. The media does not want to show you really the other things that are going on. They want to bring in the dogmatic narrative for you. So this is where it's like, yeah, I'm aware of that. How does that make me feel? This is what I need to release. How is that triggering me? Right? And this is where you got to go in, where there's going to be confusion and self-delusion, because we're in the in between. We're not, we're taking away the old and layers, like 16 layers, 16 years of layers of Pluto and Capricorn. That has to do with our government, that has to do with the schools and the corporations, and has to do with our money systems and the organizations and the banking, all of that coming up and being tossed around. So this is, not to be, Debbie Downer, but this is not, this is such an evolutionary time, a spiritual evolutionary time of change, of bringing in that change and standing up and doing the change, being that spiritual warrior is going to be so imperative with it, with this all coming in. And where many are going to want to run away and hide because they don't want it. They're looking for some kind of savior type of energy to come in. You know, this isn't, I know I'm called the guru mama, but this isn't the time of the guru. The only reason I, you know, somebody asked me, well, why do they call you the guru mama? I'm like, well, my son gave it to me. You know, my son was the one who chose that name. I would never have chosen that name for myself, and then it sort of stuck. But it's also what the guru is, a true guru. What a true guru is to help to teach you, to show you, to allow for you to experience and question. That's what a true guru is, and allowing for that to come forth. To say the least, the weekend's going to be heavy, and it's going to be very there's going to be a lot of feelings of tension. Really watch, especially with all this energy in Capricorn, watching things to with your bones, any inflation or anything that you have with your bones. That's going to be. I noticed my fingers today. I really had to do my, my little exercises and mantra and stuff with my fingers today, because they're swollen, and the arthritis and whatever else, coming through. So doing the walk today was really good because I really kind of moved things around and just getting the energy to move through. So if you're having any issues with if you have arthritis or anything like that, with this energy right now, especially with Mars being there for the next 7 weeks, and even though Pluto's going to be going on the 20th, 21st into Aquarius, you might be feeling a little bit with the fingers and stuff like that, or your joints. So he rules the bones of the matter, so the structure, so things with structure. And this is also where you're going to find things that you thought that you had structured or you had made within your life fall apart. And that's part of the things that are happening in mine. So things that I thought that I had the structures all set up and everything all set up, it just took one one little thing, and then it just went flying down, and it just got me into a uh just a crazy little kind of mess that will get cleaned up, but it's going to take a long time for it to get cleaned up. So, which is fine. It's going through that process and going through everything that needs to unfold with it all. But this is to look at the structures in your life and what may or may not be working anymore, and the things that you have to let go and release. And that's going to be an important piece to this all. So tomorrow I'm doing the releasement of 2023. If you are wanting to join me, definitely. It's $30. It starts at 6:30 tomorrow evening. I'll be sending out the link today to all of those who have registered so far, and your workbook. So I'll be sending that out today. So if you wish to join. But yeah, we just have to face it. And that's the thing. We can't hide away from any of this. That's one of the reasons why I've been doing a lot of my writing. The one I wrote last night, it's usually when I start writing is at nighttime. But when I wrote the one last night was about hope. And the thing is that hope has been a word for me that I don't give it much emphasis, because it's like, oh, you got to have hope. And it feels like, oh, hope. It's just, I don't feel like it's, for me, a feeling of high vibrating word is it, hope. But it is about having hope. And I think that's because I've sort of dissed it for so long. It reminds me of Mother Seton, Sisters of Charity, who I studied with for a few years. If anybody didn't know, I was going to become a sister, the Sister of Charities of Mother Seton. And Mother Seton really really stumbled a lot with the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven. She really stumbled with the words of that prayer, and having to let go and forgive, because she had a lot of traumatic things that happened in her life, right? Um, yes, there's a workbook, Shar. I've been doing workbooks. And with that part, or with that, with Mother Seton, that she really came to a point, and I think, in one of her visions that she had with God, and with Jesus, like showing her that forgiveness is important, and that God does forgive. And but she struggled, like it was a word that she struggled with, a word, forgiveness, that she really, to forgive someone, or that the divine forgives you, was something that she struggled for the longest time. And was a like, she was quite, excuse me, there's something in my eye. So, she was far beyond, of her time. She was a woman. She started her ministry up. The church asked her, and she was a widow, and that was very uncommon, for a to ask basically a married woman, um, to start a ministry of sisterhood. And for her, was the sisterhood of wanting to educate. Education was the key to her, and wanting to educate especially children of inner cities. And she started her ministry, I believe, in the 1600s. So just when, the newness of America, and it was one of the first ones started in the United States, was the Sisters of Charity and Mother Satan. Uh, that's the thing, is like, sometimes we struggle with things, and you might be called by God to do something, or you feel like there's a calling from God, but you have these deep struggles, and you don't feel like you are qualified to do the things that you need, that you're being called to do. You don't feel like you are, you're that person. Why me? Sort of thing. But this is where we are being called. We are all being called. And this is where stepping into such deep waters, are going to be very transformational and changing for many of us, and especially in how we see the world this year. And if anybody got my predictions for 2024, we'll see that this year is not going to be a year that is easy, and it's already started out that way, right? It didn't really feel like a big transition. I think I felt it. I kind of felt that transition when we got into January 1st, like, whoa, okay, it's beginning. It's beginning. The uncovering, the changes, um the newness, the new world. But it's like so much construction is going on, right? And it can be a little overwhelming. So let's pull some cards. Have I told you how much I love these cards? Oh, there's another deck of cards, and Olivia showed them to me. They're called the Soul Tarot deck, but they're so expensive. I think for just the package without a book, like just the package of them, is like between 75 and $90 or something like that, for just the pack of tarot decks. But they are beautiful. They are. They're just very, very stunning. I can see why Olivia is attracted to it, and I think, for one thing, for my daughter to say that like she really likes these tarot cards is something. Because it's like something, like she's getting into it. And I think more with Pluto going into her sign Aquarius. I mean, I just feel any of the fixed signs, I feel like it's just going to be, I think the first couple of years with Aquarius, with Pluto and Aquarius, is going to be difficult. a difficult one. Just because of the transitioning and changes and things coming forward with that. And anybody in any persons who were born with, I think, between 1961 to 1964, 65, there, there's going to be huge transitions and things happening with those people. I'm one of them. And those born from 19, not 91, 91, 92, 93, they're going to be going through some big transition as well. So those are the eras, because their Saturn is in Aquarius. So if you have your Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to be quite uh that's like the black and gold deck. I have no book, nothing, but we are over $80. The black and gold deck. Oh, oh yeah. I know which, okay, I know which deck that is. I don't like that deck. It's just it's not pretty. I don't think it's pretty. It's okay, but I'm not really drawn to it. Like these are, I think, are pretty. Just the artistry and everything that is on there. And it but everybody likes things differently. That's why there's so many different cards. But yeah. So those are the eras that are things that are going to happen. People who have um with Scorpio energy, because there's going to be a lot of squares to Aquarius. Same with Taurus, a lot of squares. And then with Leos too, because Leo is opposite Aquarius. So and there's going to be a lot of oppositions of how you want to do things, how you want to see things, because of the opposition with Pluto in there. And if you have anything else in that area of your chart. So, and it's also with the squares that what Pluto's going to be squaring in your Scorpio house. So if you have anything in Scorpio, so also Pluto, those who my millennials with the Pluto and Scorpio, they're going to be going through, because the Pluto Scorpio is like, wow, that's challenging. That's going to be a challenge. It's a square. So there's going to be challenges. But, the one thing about Pluto is that anything that gets challenged gets rewarded. So there is going to be some challenges with my millennials coming in. And that goes all the way up, and I think to in the 80s. So anyone born in I got 88 all the way to um 93, 94, 94, somewhere around there, 95. So they're going to have squares with Pluto, and having squares with Pluto over the next little while, over the next 20 years. So it's going to be those challenges that are going to come in for a lot of people with that as well. So it's Pluto. I mean, yes, there's a lot of challenges with Pluto and Capricorn. And the restructuring, and what we have had to restructure in the last 16 years, to how we're taking those new structures into Aquarius. And with those new structures that we are creating and wanting to create, are going to be extremely significant. And Pluto's going to test us. Are they strong enough to withstand time? Are they strong enough to really create that harmony that we want to create within the world, and wanting to bring forth the transitions and the new frequencies that are coming in, because there's a lot of new frequencies that are coming forth into our world, which are going to be very healing, and bringing in that healing energy as well. Oh, well, it's the Knight of Swords, so we might not be wanting it reversed. So wanting to go fast, want to have these things happen, want to go boom, 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 but you're not going to have it. Things aren't going to go as fast as what you wish it to go. So this is allow for you to step in and go with your flow, allowing yourself, yeah, don't try and push. Don't try and push something that just isn't working, right? Because in that, you're blocking the information that's coming in. If you're trying to really overstep things, if you're really trying to push things to the max, then things are going to get muffled, and you're going to just get that overwhelming feeling and anxiety that's going to rise up with that. So really watch your feelings with that. Like, really, pay attention to what's going on. And that, with that comes the Ace of Cups. So new emotions are coming in, new ideas, especially your intuition, trusting the new energies of your intuition that are coming forth. So the water comes in. The water means you got to take some time, and especially with the moon coming into Scorpio. So there's going to be some deep well waters that are coming in, and don't try and push when you're walking through the lava, because you're not going to get through very far. Especially with the moon in Scorpio, and we are coming to the dark phases of the moon. So the moon will go through Scorpio, and then as it goes into Sag, we're going to be coming into the dark phases. So take some time today. Take some time for meditation, walking, connecting, doing something creative within your creative self. Yeah. So there you go. If you are wanting to get a reading, definitely get a hold of me. Direct message me or email thegurumama@gmail.com. Care to join me tomorrow evening? Get a hold. I'm here, baby. All right. On that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. I want you all to have a fabulous Friday and enjoy as we go and beat the dust, baby. Beat the dust. Bye-bye, y'all. See y'all.